Howdy friends, I'm Morgan, the Nerdy Cowgirl, and welcome to my channel. So it is spooky season, and I do not read very many spooky books. I do not find them very comfortable. So for this reading vlog, I am reading books that are out of my comfort zone. I chose 5 genres that I don't typically read. I don't know the typical tropes for these genres. I don't know typical authors or good titles for these genres. I watched a bunch of book recommendations and I chose whichever book sounded the best to me, and I also picked ones that maybe a lot of people talked about. Like maybe it didn't sound like something that really stuck out to me, but multiple people talked about how good it was, and so I was like, I'll give that one a try too. So I chose a sci-fi book, a lit fit book, a thriller, a horror book, and a dark academia. Hopefully I'll get to all of them, but I might not be able to. I think the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to start with my least comfy genre and get to my one that I think is probably the most comfortable. The least comfortable genre would probably be horror or lit fic. Probably horror, lit fic, and then dark academia and thriller and sci-fi. That's probably the order I will read them in. I don't think I've read any horror books. I think Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is technically considered a horror book. Picture of Dorian Gray might be, but I don't consider those horror books. And then lit fic. Lit fic means literary fiction, so it's literally just a fiction story. So there might not be any romance in it. And then dark academia is like school setting and stuff, but it's like dark, and I don't know what all goes into that either. Thriller, I have read some thrillers. They're kind of hit and miss for me. Some of them I know the twist before it ever gets to it, and I don't know that I've ever really loved a thriller. Maybe Verity might be the only thriller type. I don't know if that's technically considered a thriller, but in my mind that's a thriller. And I really loved Verity. And then sci-fi is along the same lines of fantasy in my opinion. So I think I'll really like the sci-fi. I am gonna go and see if my library has these books, and if they do have them, then I will get them from the library, and if they don't, I will try and find them on maybe Libby or on Hoopla, and then if I can't find them on there, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But yeah. So let's get to the library and find these books, and let's get into the reading vlog. I will see you guys in a second. Hey guys, so I'm here at the library. Hold on. Okay. Hey guys, so I'm here at the library, and I'm going to go see if they have some of my uncomfortable books. We'll see if they have them, and if they do, we'll check those out, and if they don't, then maybe I'll see if they have them on Libby or something, but okay, let's go see. Hey guys. So I just got home from the library and grabbing me some lunch, and I wanted to go through and show you guys what books I got from the library. So this first one is actually a manga that I was thinking would be cool to read in, it's spooky season. Be kind of cool to read this one. So yeah, I got Bram Stoker's Dracula, and it's manga classics. Experience classic tales in manga format. So I have never read a manga before, so I thought this one would be really cool to start with. So I saw it on their display setup, and I was like, ooh, I like it. I wanted to read Dracula anyways, so I was like, why not read it in manga? So I'm gonna try this one. Next I got, for my thriller read, I chose The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I've heard nothing but good things about this book, so I'm excited to read this one. Let's see what's next. Okay, so for my horror pick, I chose The Whisper Man by Alex North. So I am not a horror girly at all. So I'm kind of nervous about this one. This is out of my comfort zone for sure. So I'm a little nervous about this one. But yeah, so The Whisper Man by Alex North. And then next, I got, my sci-fi pick, Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. And I think this one would probably be my least out of comfort zone. I don't know, I just feel like sci-fi and fantasy kind of go hand in hand. Whereas fantasy is more like at the past, like nostalgic, like, I don't know. It's a, past era. And it's kind of a love letter to a past feeling, a nostalgic feeling. And sci-fi is kind of a love letter to the future. Does that make sense? Am I just spouting nonsense? I don't know. But I really want to read this book. I really liked the movie. And I've also seen so many recommendations, like sci-fi recommendations. This is always a top recommendation for people's favorite sci-fi books. So I'm excited to read this one. But I might save that for last because I feel like that's going to be my least uncomfy. Next, I got Severance by Ling Ma, and I chose this one for Lit Fic. I am a romance and fantasy lover, and that's really where I stay in my reading, is I stay in romance or in fantasy. So anything outside of that, like Lit Fic, which it's just literary fiction, so it's just a work of fiction, right? So there's a plot and there's characters, right? Because it's fiction. But there may not be romance. And of course it's not fantasy. So it's going to be out of my comfort zone. And I watched a few like Lit Fic recommendation videos, and this was on a couple of them. So, and the premise sounded really good. I'll read the synopsis when I go to read this one. So yeah. So this is my Lit Fic pick. What? All right. And then I think I got one more. Yeah. Now this one I didn't pick for this uncomfortable read, but I chose Bride by Allie Hazelwood. Because I had to get a fantasy. I had to get a fantasy romance. And I've heard so many mixed reviews for this one. Some people loved it. Just loved it. Some people hated it. Like, I feel like this is kind of like, of course, ACOTAR, I see more people that absolutely love it than I do people that absolutely hate it. But just like ACOTAR, there's no middle ground of people that are just like, it's okay. This one is one that I for sure have not heard anybody say it's just okay. Like, they either love it or they hate it. I'm excited to read this one. And then for my last choice for my uncomfy reads, I chose The Dark Academia, and it was The Secret History by Donna Tartt. And my library had it checked out, and I was like 75th on hold on Libby, and then I couldn't find anything on Hoopla. So I reserved it, but okay, so I have not actually went to the library seeking a certain book. So most of the time I just pick whatever I find. So I've never had to use the computer to search their database and stuff. So a lady was on the computer right before me, and I was searching for The Secret History. So my thinking was maybe it was on a display, kind of like
the manga for Dracula was. So I was like, I'll see if it's still in. And so the lady before me looked up a book, and then I got on the computer, and I didn't know that you sign in on that computer. I didn't know that. So I was technically under her name when I first looked up the secret history. And I went to reserve it, and it just said, reserve at the main library. And I was like, yeah, I thought maybe it would pop up another thing to say, okay, enter your email to, notify you. And I did it. So it reserved it under her. And I was like, shit, can I undo that? But I couldn't. So then I logged on to mine. Well, I forgot my password. But I got that all figured out. And I logged on to mine and reserved it. And so now I'm 2. Unless she's, I guess, maybe they'll call her and say, hey, we got it back. And she'll be like, I didn't reserve that. I don't want that. And it'll bump to me. I don't know. I don't know how all this works. Like I said, I've never had to reserve a book because I've never gone there in search of one. So that kind of sucks. But if not, I don't know what I can do other than buy it. I don't want to buy it though. I'll figure something out. I'll see you guys in a little bit. Okay, bye.
Okay, so the first book that I'm going to be reading out of my comfort zone is going to be my horror pick, which is The Whisper Man by Alex North. So some of the praise for The Whisper Man says, poignant and terrifying. Take a deep breath before diving into this one. Entertainment Weekly. Brilliant. An affirmation of the power of the father-son relationship will satisfy readers of Thomas Harris and Stephen King. Book list. Nice. The Whisper Man is the most unsettling thriller I've read since Joe Nesbo's The Snowman, which I haven't read that one. I don't know what that means. Much more than the sum of its parts, it is nightmarish and disturbing, and at the same time a moving and life-affirming novel about fathers and sons and grief, loss, and recovery. Alex Michaelides. I did read his Silent Patient, and I did really enjoy The Silent Patient, so interesting. First it's spooky, then it's scary, then it's terrifying, and then, well, dear reader, proceed at your own risk. An ambitious, deeply satisfying thriller, a seamless blend of Harlan Coben, Stephen King, and Thomas Harris. My flesh is still crawling. Oh no. What did I do? A.J. Finn, author of The Woman in the Window. Beautifully written, beautifully plotted. C.J. Tudor, author of The Chalk Man. Get ready to be unnerved. This novel is thrilling. Brad Meltzer, best-selling author. A terrifying page-turner with the complexities of fatherhood at its core. Kirkus Reviews. A powerful and scary story that will haunt readers long after the final page is turned. Library Journal. Oh no. If you leave a door half open, soon you'll hear the whisper spoken. If you're lonely, sad, and blue, the Whisper Man will come for you. After the sudden death of his wife, Tom Kennedy believes a fresh start will help him and his young son Jake heal. A new beginning, a new house, a new town, Featherbank. But the town has a dark past. 20 years ago, a serial killer abducted and murdered 5 residents. Until Frank Carter was finally caught, he was nicknamed the Whisper Man, for he would lure his victims out by whispering at their windows at night. Just as Tom and Jake settle into their new home, a young boy vanishes. His disappearance bears an unnerving resemblance to Frank Carter's crimes, reigniting old rumors that he preyed with an accomplice. Now, detectives Amanda Beck and Pete Willis must find the boy before it is too late, even if that means Pete has to revisit his great foe in prison, the Whisper Man. And then Jake begins acting strangely. He hears a whispering at his window. Oh my goodness. Alex North was born in Leeds, England, where he now lives with his wife and son. The Whisper Man was inspired by North's own little boy, who mentioned one day that he was playing with the boy in the floor. Alex North is a British crime writer who has previously published under another name. So it sounds really good. It's okay. Out of your comfort zone. You gotta get out of your comfort zone. You gotta get out of your comfort zone. It'll be okay. Pray for me. No, I'll be okay. I'll be okay. I'll get through it. It'll be fine. We'll be good. So, let's get started on The Whisper Man.
Okay, so I'm only on chapter 8, and the spookiness is already starting. So, a little boy has already been taken, and they're looking for him. But then another side, storyline is a dad who lost his wife recently, and him and his son have moved to this town, which I think is not a very good sign. But the house that they move into is they talk about how creepy it looks, and it just looks eerie and creepy looking. But the son really liked it, so they bought it, and they've been there a week. And he says, we were going to be safe here. We were going to be happy. And for the first week, we were. So I was like, oh shit, what's going to happen? Well, he was setting up a bookshelf. You know, he's an author, so he puts his novels and other translations and stuff on a bookshelf, and he hears movement above him in his son's room. He looks up the stairs, and he's like, his son's name is Jake. He's like, Jake, hey Jake, what you doing up there? And he's like, and nobody answers, and he says, Jake, and then his son is in the living room, and he says, what, Daddy? And he turns around, there's his son. And so he goes upstairs, and he looks in the room, and nobody's up there. We're on chapter 8, and it's already starting with this spooky stuff. Oh, I'm nervous. Okay, this is getting real scary. So, okay. So, I'm struggling because the little boys are Merritt's age. And so it's really hard reading about this. Yeah, it's really hard reading about this. And also, it's the middle of the night, and he gets woken up by the little girl spirit thing. We can just assume that she's a spirit because it's the little girl that Jake keeps talking to that isn't there. But Tom gets woken up by her, and he hears the whispering, and he goes out into the hall, and he sees that Jake is by the door, about to open the door to the Whisper Man. Okay, so and that's a part of this. Something that little girl keeps making Jake recite the poem that, lock the door, don't go out alone. I read it at the beginning. But she keeps making him recite it, and it's not helping because he's about to let him in the door. Oh my goodness. How am I going to sleep tonight? I'm home alone tonight. How am I gonna sleep? I'm just kidding. I'll sleep, but this is pretty scary. Okay, so I am about halfway through The Whisper Man, and the dad, Tom, just found a hidden box in the garage where he saw an old man trying to break in. And so he pulls the hidden box out, and as he opens the hidden box and looks inside, some cops pull up. And one thing that I like about this book is that it doesn't do the miscommunication trope. And so when he looks into the box, he sees that it's a body. And instead of like being like, I need to hide this, they're gonna think it was me. No, he tells them everything. We don't see him telling him everything, but it like jumps over to another cop who is just so happened to be talking to the suspect. And so he gets a phone call, and it's the other officer saying, hey, where are you? And he said, well, I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm at this guy's house. And she says, okay, well, bring him in, because we came over to this house who like called in a creepy person who he suspected was trying to abduct his son, and he's found a body, and he suspects it's that guy, to bring him in. And so I was like, yes. That's what I hate, stories that are miscommunication, that people are like, innocent people are like, I've got to hide this body now because people are going to think it's me. Like, no, just be honest. It drives me crazy. That is one thing that I like about this book, is there's none of that going on. None of that miscommunication stuff going on. So, oh my goodness. I'm like seeing red right now. So they found the body of the little boy who the oldest detective has been looking for 20 years. They found him. The dad found him. Tom found him. And so they caught him, right? And at first he was saying, no comment. Well, after spending a night in the jail, he decided to change his mind. And so they were like, okay, tell us about why you were trying to get in there to Tony Smith. And he was like, well, you could pay for the experience. And he didn't tell the cops. You didn't tell the cops. You knew he'd been missing for 20 years, and you didn't tell. I haven't finished his statement yet, but I'm seeing red. I'm seeing red. Oh, I'm so mad right now. Let's get through it. It was one of the most powerful hours of my life. You little... Ooh. Hey guys. So I just now finished The Whisper Man, and I absolutely loved this book. What a way to start my uncomfy reads. I figured that since these are library books, I will, instead of reading them and then talking about them all at the end, I will just talk about them all as I finish them, because that way I can return them back to the library when I'm done, and don't accidentally forget to take them back. What can I say about this book? I think I'm going to give it 5 stars because I absolutely loved it. Okay, so there are probably like 4 characters, I guess I would say. There is the experienced, time-hardened detective named Pete Willis, and he was the main investigator during the original Whisper Man case, and he actually caught the killer, but he didn't find one of the bodies, and so it has kind of been eaten at him since then. And yeah, so he's kind of blamed himself, and he's the only one that the Whisper Man will talk to in prison. But whenever he goes to talk to him, he always holds that kid's body like over him, like he won't tell him where it is. and he kind of just plays with him and toys with him whenever he goes to visit. Well, in the beginning, a new boy gets taken. It's been 20 years since the Whisper Man's original case, or original murders. And in the beginning of the book, another boy gets taken. His name was Neil Spencer. And the fourth storyline is Amanda Beck, Detective Amanda Beck, who has the new Whisper Man case. And so she kind of calls in Pete to help with finding this new boy when the mom randomly remembers that the boy said that he remembered hearing whispering out his window. And so she's like, that sounds familiar. And so she calls Pete to help. So they're trying to find this boy. And then at the same time, the other storyline is Tom and Jake Kennedy. And Tom just lost his wife, Rebecca, the mother of Jake. They just lost her, and they're both taking it, very hard, just like anybody would. Jake is the one who found his mom at the bottom of the steps, dead. And so he's got like a fear of stairs and stuff. And so Tom thinks if they move and get a fresh start, then his son can start to heal. And so they move to the town of Featherbank to get away from the house with so many bad memories and stuff. And they're trying to build a life in Featherbank. And yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but it was so good. I loved this book. I could not put it down. The chapters were really short, so I feel like I flew through it. And it's technically a horror, and it is really dark, and it feels really dreary and dark and heavy, but it's really about the father and son relationship, because Tom feels self-conscious. He didn't have the best dad, and so he is worried that he's not going to be a good dad to Jake. And it's just, it had a lot to do with like generational healing and just fathers and sons. And this was just so good. 100% read it. Even if you're not into horror. I forgot to mention that there is no gore, and like there's no descriptions of what happens to the boys, but you just know it's bad. But there's no descriptions or anything, so don't be worried about anything like that. If you don't ever read horror, or if you associate that with horror, don't worry about that. There's none of that in here. This was so good. That's the whole reason that I'm giving it 5. Like, was the story was, I don't know, the plot could have been mediocre, but I don't know. It was so good. I think it was so good. I 100% recommend this. 5 stars. I loved it. I loved the argument, the father and son relationship that it was spotlighting, and the generational trauma or generational curses, and it was just so good. It was so good. 100%. 5 stars. Read it. Even if you don't like horror, I think you'll like this one. The Whisper Man, Alex North. Okay, so excuse my hair. It's cold out here, so I don't really want to put it up. Excuse my hair, but it's cold out here, and I want to go ahead and get this filmed so that I can go ahead and start on this one. So I just finished The Whisper Man. So the next book that I'm going to be reading is Severance by Ling Ma. It is a literary fiction, or is what I chose for my lit fic pick. I watched a couple lit fic pick videos, and this was on several recommendations. So this is on several people's lists. So I'm gonna go ahead and read the synopsis or whatever, because I don't remember what exactly it's about, but I remember it sounded interesting when they were talking about it, so that's why I wrote this one down. All right, it says, is it the end of the world or just another day at the office?
Candace Chin, newly minted New Yorker, first-generation American, recent orphan, millennial worker bee, loves going to work. She likes the routine and the anonymity of the city. She likes coordinating the production of specialty Bibles, having a project to complete, an object to create, troubles to shoot. Sometimes she likes watching movies in her boyfriend's basement apartment. Lather, rinse, repeat. So Candace barely notices when Shin fever sweeps New York. Families flee. Companies cease operation. The subways squeak to a halt. Persuaded by a big payout to be a one-person skeleton crew at the office, she spends her free time photographing the abandoned city as an anonymous blogger. NY Ghost. Eventually, though, Candace will have to escape from Manhattan, enter a group of survivors led by a power-hungry IT specialist named Bob. They're traveling to a place called the Facility, where, Bob promises, they will have everything they need to start society anew. But Candace is guarding a secret Bob will certainly exploit. Will her rescuers become her captors? A send up and take down of the rituals, routines, and missed opportunities of contemporary life. Ling Ma Severance is a moving family story, a quirky coming of adulthood tale, and a hilarious deadpan satire in which the end of the world gets put in its rightful place. Just another setback for an already besieged culture. Most of all, it's a heartfelt tribute to the connections that drive us to do more than survive. Huh. Well, that doesn't sound like what I remember them saying. But we'll see. I don't know if I would pick it up based on that. Probably not. I probably wouldn't pick it up based on that synopsis. But from what other people were saying about it, it sounded better than that to me. But we'll see. I think it's fairly short. It's only 291 pages, 26 chapters. So it's fairly short. So I feel like I should be able to read this fairly quickly. So, yep. We'll be starting Severance. I don't know why an author would choose to do that.
I'm really struggling with this one. And it's just...
Come on, guys. Come on. That part is so interesting. And that's what is like keeping me reading it, is because I want to know more about that.